Alright guys, today I got an 09 F-150 that has a check engine light on with the evap code stored in the PCM. Now the fault on this one is a canister purge valve on the engine that actually gets stuck open, or they can get stuck closed, but most of the time they get stuck open and they cause this kind of fault on there. Now these canister purge valves, like I said in previous videos, can cause evap leak codes, rich codes, lean codes, O2 sensor codes, all kinds of codes on here. But on the 09 and newer F-150s, they use a little bit different canister purge valve. It's still a new design compared to the old faithful design they used for years and no problems. I've never changed one until 09. But these ones are a little bit bigger, a little bit different design with hoses come off the end of them, and a lot of people are asking about them, F-150 owners, and they're asking how they look and where they're at and all that stuff, because it doesn't match my other videos for the canister purge valve. Now also because of this bigger design and the large capacity of the engines, yes, these have new problems on them also. Besides those evap codes, harmless evap codes and rich codes and lean codes, they can actually suck a lot of fuel into the engine, so much so that the canister gets soaked and you gotta change it. That's expensive. The other thing is that the engine can actually die going down the road. It can die at a stop and usually pull over to the side of the road and it starts right back up. That's very dangerous, and just goes to show how powerful and how large the tubes are on here compared to even the other ones. So it can pull quite a draw in the system and really suck that raw fuel up through there. And that's the worst part. It can die out. I mean, especially 09s and 2010s. We used to have a lot of complaints of these things just dying out going down the road. And it was that canister purge valve on there. Now also, we've seen a couple, I've read a couple on our Ford boards, our internal dealership boards, where these things that get stuck open so long, these plastic fuel tanks in the back there, they actually get sucked in. So they're like a pancake back there, not that much, but you get the point. They're like sucked in, they're obviously deformed. So it can suck in the tank too. So that's pretty crazy. And so I get a lot of questions about them. A lot of people own F-150s over other vehicles. It's the most popular selling truck for how long now? Almost 40 years or whatever. So I am going to show you exactly what it looks like under the hood so you can identify it. And once you identify it, pull the one hose off, test it real quick while the engine's running, and it's disconnected like I'll show you. After that, you just change it out. It's one little bolt, unclip the lines, done. Clear the code, drive on. But in the meantime, it can cause a lot of problems. And there it is. This one's only setting a Bank 1 lean DTC out of all the DTCs that can be set on here. So it goes to show, doesn't always have to be an emissions DTC. Doesn't have to always be a rich DTC. Doesn't always have to be both banks. So once you have this, any of these codes, lean, rich, evap, do this canister purge test. Alright, so on the 09 and 2010 F-150s that carried over the 4.6 liter 3-valve and 5.4 liter 3-valve engines, the old style engines, they went to this kind of valve right here. So it looks a little bit different. It has a hose come off with a little bracket. The valve itself looks different, and it has two connections on it instead of plugging directly into the intake. This is how the valves are on the rest of the vehicles in the Ford line once they changed over to this new style valve that fails all the time. So this is what you're going to be looking for on your engine, and it's usually on the left hand side of the engine, the driver's side. And this one is right here, obviously. It's just nice and dirty. On the 5.4 liter 3 valves, they're in the back side of the intake back there. So look for it back there. There's a little more room on those to get to the intake. And on the E-vans, of course, they're on the back side also. But usually, they're right here on the left-hand side. Now the only engine that's the new engine from 11 on that carried over this style with bracket and all that stuff, purge valve, is a 3.5 liter GTDI engine. So, but this is what you need to look for when you're trying to change it out or test it. Alright, so I'll go over it real quick on how to test these in case you haven't seen my other videos on testing these canister purge valves that are a little troublesome on the new Fords. Basically what you do is engine off, you disconnect the electrical connector, put it off to the side, and then this line goes down to the canister, the fuel vapor canister, down below there. So we're going to disconnect that one. He's pushing the little tangs. This will pop up, and then it comes off. You just kind of twist it off of there. At that point, you can go over, start your engine up, and let it idle. And over here, put your finger on this end of the valve. You shouldn't feel no suction from engine vacuum at all. Even put it on there. Sometimes these only leak a little bit. Sometimes they're a full-blown leak, and they'll just suck your finger right to it. So put your finger on there, let it go for a couple seconds, then try to pull it off there slowly and see if it has any kind of suction to it, and that's how you know this valve is bad. And unfortunately, a lot of times these are intermittent, but when I have this fault, usually they're so far gone that this little test I do definitely identifies a bad valve. Now to change it out, obviously you took off the one side already, you unscrew the one bolt there and take off the line from the other side, same thing, and then you just simply swap it out. It's very, very simple. It's a simple part. The parts doesn't cost too much, $50, $60, $70, but it causes a lot of problems in the Fords. And they're often misdiagnosed at independent shops.